All right, Gemini, I like it, but then at the same time, I feel like there's a little bit of like a warning, but it's not like a bad thing. So from Lady Vampire, you pulled Hunter, Aggressor, Tracker, and Provider, which I love. But then from Chakra Wisdom, you pull Growth. Now, the thing is if you're going to be aggressively tracking something down, you have to ask yourself, is this something that's going to continue your own personal growth, right? When you look at growth, it's talking about taking a stand for yourself now. You know, it's not just about the growth of yourself, but also of others. But really, I feel like this is about you. Now, on the other hand, though, I do feel like the door is kind of like opening here for you to start going after something because you've already looked at all the things that you have outgrown, and now it's all about you and your personal growth, which is perfect. But, you know, if you're going to aggressively track something down too, right, you have to be honest with yourself about what it is you're going after. All right, Gemini, here we go. Here's your overall for the week. Ooh, buddy. Yay. The Ace of Wands. So, you know, for me, immediately with this being the signifier, I'm thinking that everything that is happening around this is all about making the most of this, right? And with the Ace of Wands, new passion, new physical passion, new creative ideas, a new beginning. And it's perfect because of the word passion, right? And it's no wonder why Hunter's sitting there. Now, in the past, the Six of Wands, perfect. It's perfect. So now this could definitely be coming through to you, though, because of recognition, you know, because that is a part of the Six of Wands. But, you know, is it? Or is it? I'm like, I'm immediately wanting to go through the definition of the card, but I'm hearing, nope, don't even bother, because that's not what it's about, right? Like, so victory, first of all, with the Six of Wands, right? And then being recognized for a job well done. You know, this is the coming home card, though, too, right? When you look at the wands, a lot of them will talk about like travel, you know, and adventures. This is coming home after the adventure, right? And people going, oh, look, right? Look at what they did. But I think that this is being recognized for what you do or what you have done. And that's why that Ace of Wands is showing up now. Oh boy. In the present, the Emperor. Yeah, I want to see what's going on here. I always want to see what's happening there. The Emperor in the present moment could absolutely be about, you know, you needing to take control of a situation and needing to get control over your life. But I don't know. I mean, with the Emperor, right, and you've got Aries, this could definitely be about someone. But we'll see here. Okay. Future conditions, the Eight of Cups. Why? You know, what I'm getting from this is looking at the Ace of Wands. You know, it makes me wonder if somebody isn't recognizing you for the way that, you know, you are right now in control of your life. When you look at the Emperor, right, it's about enforcing your will onto your environment. Do you feel like you're in control? Have you gotten control over what is happening in your world, right? But with the Eight of Cups and looking at the Ace of Wands, you know, and then I look at growth and I think, that may be an opportunity coming through based on, you know, somebody recognizing you or somebody wanting your attention. But this may have been something that you've done before. And with the Eight of Cups, it's like, yeah, I don't know about this. You know, I almost feel like you've already taken the new path. Why should you revert back to this when you already know what's going to happen, or what you think you know is what's going to happen? Because when you look at the Eight of Cups, right, this is something that doesn't fulfill you, you know, but because of the progression here, I look at this as, you know, you've gotten control over your life. Why would you want to go back to, you know, this new thing being offered to you when you already know what it's going to end up being like for you? Wow. Okay. You, boy. This is going to be one of those weeks, I'm telling you, you and Taurus, justice being your best path to follow. And again, I'm going to say the same thing, right? It's about fair and balanced choices for everyone involved, right? Because justice for all, not just for one here, because you don't want to be making choices where you're going to be held accountable for the, you know, decisions you make later on. But damn, man, I look at that and think, is this fair? Is this right? Is this going to, continue that balance in your life? And I look at that Eight of Cups and I think, wow, where is this coming from? Because normally with the Ace of Wands, definitely with Hunter being there, it'd be something I would aggressively track down. But, like I said, I look at that Eight of Cups and I think you've already been there. You've already been there and done that. I don't necessarily feel like it's going to be you left in a position where, by the end of the week, you progress to the 8, and you're dissatisfied and needing to walk away from it. I don't think that that's it at all. I think you already know. And I say that because of immediately what I got off of the Six of Wands. Oh boy, oh boy. All right. In your environment, the Ten of Cups. Yeah. To me, it's like you're happy. You're king shit here. Whether you're male or female. Now, definitely with the Emperor and the Ten of Cups, we could be talking about a family member here, right? But I don't think that that's it. I think that, your overall happiness right now is coming from a place where you feel like you're in control. I don't think I've ever looked at that Ace of Wands and have been like, maybe not. Maybe it's not something you want to do, right? Because, you've already done the right thing in the past. And it's led you to this feeling of being in absolute control over what is happening in your life. Wow, Gemini, what the hell is happening? Oh boy, your hopes and your fears, the King of Pentacles. Why is he a persistent thing for you guys? The King of Pentacles. Now, if you have hopes and fears surrounding a person, whether they're male or female, with him being there, immediately I question dependability. Is this person somebody that you can depend on? Are they just looking to gain something here? But definitely this could be about, though, because I'm looking at it this way and thinking, it could be possibly, right, like a job offer for some of you. But with that Eight of Cups, I feel I've already been there and done that. Why would you want to invest into something you're going to eventually have to walk away from again? You know what I'm saying? Especially with Justice being there. But I don't know. I look at that Ten of Cups and I think, your happiness is where you get to be in control. So then, looking at him as hopes and fears, does the other person have control, or are you in control of what is happening here? Are you going to invest time into something that's going to disappoint you later on? And like I said, whether that's male or female here, it's the energy of that card, hoping and fearing about whether or not somebody can be depended on. That and fearing that they're just looking to gain from you. Ooh, boy. All right. Coming out the Page of Swords. I look at this and I think that, dishonesty, because I always question that when I'm looking at the page. Don't ever with the Knight, but with the Page of Swords, I question on whether or not somebody is being completely forthright. Because this, to me, is the need for more information. Now, on the other hand, it could just be that, bad news puts you in a place where, you're going to have to stop doing this Ace of Wands. But I think right now, some of you are good. You're good where you're at. Why would you even accept this? Especially with the Six of Wands and then looking at the Ten of Cups and the Emperor and the Nine of Cups. This is really about, you being happy and stable where you are at. But I think that with that Nine of Cups, you're looking at, what more can you gain, right? You're talking about having your wishes fulfilled and feeling abundant and having the things that you want. That Ace of Wands could definitely be it, but looking at the Page of Swords and Eight of Cups, it's like, no. And with the Five of Swords, again, no. I don't think that that's about you, willing to do whatever it takes to get what you want. I don't think that that's it. I think that, you may be dealing with somebody here who is looking to gain something from you, to take from you. I don't think that this person is looking at, I don't think that they're looking at overall happiness here, the happily ever after. I think that you think that there's potential there, but really, I go back to the Emperor and I feel both. Who has control, and you are happy being in control of what is going on for you, rather than letting somebody else dictate that. But looking at all of this in connection to the Page of Swords, it's somebody being dishonest. I mean, straight up, somebody being dishonest, not being forthright, and looking at, what they can gain from you. And then I look at the Eight of Cups and I'm going, you already know this. This is what gets me. You already know this. And the other thing, though, too, I feel like saying here is that you can't control other people. And then I look at Justice and I think, all right, so if you've been through this before and you already know what the outcome is going to be, do you feel like this person has corrected these wrongs before? And if not, then again, where is your accountability here for, even entertaining the idea if you've already been through it? I would just be careful. I would be careful because to me, this almost looks like you have somebody in your space that, you may be hoping for better things with. But to me, it looks like all they see right now is what they can gain from you. And I think it's going to put you in a difficult spot if you even, think about accepting that Ace of Wands. I don't think I've ever looked at it as a difficult thing. But I'm just being honest with the way that I feel about the way this is playing out. I would say no, because you will. It's like if you continue on the path that you're on, again, nothing's ever set in stone, but it's a pretty good idea of eventually what you're going to have to face again. Because I go back to that Six of Wands and think you should have already had victory over this nonsense. But yet this person is still very much prevalent. If you're hoping and fearing around them, hoping that, they're going to fix whatever wrongs they may have done, and fearing that you can't depend on them. Gemini, what is happening with you guys lately? Okay. When you're looking at assurance, yeah, I laugh every time I see that because it's like a lot of times we won't do anything unless we have assurance that things are going to go in the right direction, right? We need to have that assurance and that backup plan here before I do this, right? But this is also about the universe kind of letting you know that everything is fine. Everything's going to be fine. Confidence. And then looking at the Emperor, yep, yes. Remaining confident in your ability here to accept that things are what they are. You can't go back. It's like you can't backtrack here, because I don't think that this person is willing to change, because what I'm seeing coming out and what you're dealing with is not good, right? I think you're going to be fine, whether you entertain this or not. But eventually you're going to be led to a place where you're going to have to accept that, this person is who they are, because I do think this is about another person here who is looking to gain from you. And certainly don't let them affect your confidence, right? I don't know. I'm looking at this and I feel okay about it, but then I still worry that some of you are going to allow yourselves to be put in the position here with the Eight of Cups anyway, because of the hopes and fears surrounding whoever that person is. And then actions speak loudly. Express your love through your actions. Yeah, actions do speak loudly, especially when it comes to other people. Now, separate from that, and then I look at growth, right? This has an opportunity, to turn into something better for you, right? But that may be hard to see, especially when you're dealing with people who are just looking to gain from you. But, actions speak loudly, right? That I feel like is more so, that to me is more so for the other person than it is for you, right? Now, for those of you who are happy in a relationship, absolutely, you need to express that through your actions. But I look at this and I think, this is one of those moments where things are going to change for you. And then I go back to Hunter and growth and think, definitely learning through this experience, but then again, it's a situation that's going to open the door for you to aggressively track down better things than this. I would just be careful with who you're dealing with right now, because the intentions there are not in your interest. And I think that right now, especially with the Emperor and the Ten of Cups, that some of you are fine where you are at. Don't relinquish control to somebody else right now, because you don't want to be left in this position of the Eight of Cups where I feel like you've already been. All right, Gemini. I don't think that I've ever looked at the Ace of Wands and thought, yeah, no. But like I said, with everything that's happening around this, it's what is dictating whether or not this is something that you want to act on. And I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, there is potential here, but I worry about somebody else seeing the potential that they can get by being involved with you. Okay? So, and I do think that you've already been here. You've already been here. Especially with the Six of Wands being the past coming through. You know that this is where it's going to lead. But yet, with your hopes and fears surrounding this person, I can understand why, you're even entertaining the idea. Right? I mean, it frustrates me because of the way it's coming out. I do think that right now you are happiest when you are in control of what is happening in your own world. Don't give up control to somebody else where you're questioning on whether or not you can actually depend on them. Again, because of him being hopes and fears. But with that Eight of Cups, it's like you've already been there. You've already been there. You know where this is going to lead. Now, looking at the Page of Swords and looking at the Eight of Cups, this could definitely be about an opportunity coming through, things not going so well, getting some bad news and having to walk away. But I'm looking at that Page of Swords and looking at, your hopes and fears surrounding this King of Pentacles, whoever this person is, and them not exactly being forthright, not being very truthful. And I do think, especially with the Six of Wands coming through, that you've gotten to this place of stability. Now, definitely we could be talking about family issues, though, too, but I look at that Four of Wands and I think, that is what you've wanted. You've wanted to have, this level of stability that, you've accomplished on your own, but with this person, I think with the Nine of Cups is what you wanted, but looking at the Five of Swords, no. I think that this is about somebody who is looking to take from you what they can. I would be careful in dealing with this person and don't give up control. Now, looking at the soul trees, again, you're going to be fine. You still have that assurance. But the other thing, though, too, is, are you sure, though, of your own confidence here in accepting that, this situation is going to be what it is? Because I look at acceptance and think, it's hard for us to accept things that don't go the way that we wanted them to, or accepting, certain things about other people. It's like when you get that realization that, okay, well, this person is just looking to hurt me, there comes a point where you can't look for the good in that person anymore. You just need to accept that it is what it is and then move on, right? And do it in a way that is not going to, blow your ego almost. Especially with the Emperor sitting there and looking at confidence. I don't know, I just worry about this one a little bit. And again, very general, not going to be for everybody. But then looking at Whispers of Love, not soul trees. We already talked about that. Appreciate this moment. That can be hard to do when there's shitty moments. But, it may open the door up to possibly something better, a better understanding, a better relationship. And then actions speak loudly. I think that that's more for the people that are around you rather than you. But absolutely, when it comes to relationships, if you're feeling love, you got to express it through your actions, right? But I look at this and I think, this may be an opportunity that's going to lead you to something that's going to be better than this. Like I always tell people, we go through such horrible shit, but it eventually leads us to a point when we've learned our lessons and we've done the right thing and made the right choices and looked at, how we've acted and, our patterns of behavior. When we get to that place where everything is good, we get to look back on situations like this and go, man, I went through a lot of shit, but look at where I'm at now. Right? So this may open the door to something else. And that's, what I was feeling with these two in the first place. Like something is opening up, and you get to aggressively track down an Ace of Wands that isn't going to hurt you in the end.